Part of the journey of awakening is the cultivation and development of heart qualities. I've mentioned in some of my writing that for many years I viewed myself as a head and belly practitioner. We can have awakening experiences can happen in the head, in the heart, or in the belly. They're different qualitative realizations. And ideally, one would, over the course of a practice lifetime, have all three. You can see teachers sometimes. I had some teachers that had not had the heart awakening, and they had the absence, the emptiness quite profoundly. But without the heart, there isn't the tenderness, there isn't the appropriateness. It's sort of like you're using an axe to do surgery, where what you need is a scalpel and a clear plan. So anyway, it's one of the things that's very important, and that's why for me I teach the Buddha's heart material and the practices, because they not only help us mature our personality and really become more refined human beings, but we also make contact with the heart qualities of the absolute. I use the term absolute to mean the source of all creation and manifestation. The absolute is not born, doesn't decay or die. It's always been in existence and always will be. So that we call unconditioned. So there's no conditions to its beingness. And our bodies and our world are conditioned. There's a birth, decay, and death. Whether it's over a short time or a long time, it's still subject to decay and death. So part of what motivates us to turn to a spiritual life is the knowing that we're conditioned. And part of what we're doing in the spiritual journey is making deeper and deeper contact with what's unconditioned, which is the absolute. And the more that we can have that contact, we can get more and more familiar. We can work through our resistances, our survival instincts that can kick up worry, anxiety, and fear about deep contact with the absolute. And ultimately, we can realize the absolute is here, is a part of this individual consciousness. Awakening is the awakening of the absolute to itself in a particular consciousness. So it would not be correct to say, I'm awakened or I had an awakening experience. It's proper to say that the absolute had an awakening experience in this location. I use the Zen term Kensho often for awakening. Kensho simply means seeing into one's true nature or seeing one's true nature. And it's normally the first realization. One can have many Kensho experiences, but in the Zen tradition, a first awakening would be referred to as a Kensho. In the traditions that I teach, one can have Kensho experience working with koans, which is the intention of the first koans, we call them the Dharmakaya koans, the koans of the absolute. And then other koans work to refine that realization, both in terms of function and speech. And then also there's the shikantaza, which we'll do today, which is a meditation where we turn inward, and by turning inward, we connect with the totality of the universe, a totality of the absolute. And or we can. I mean, it's there whether we're aware of it or not. So one of the ways that we prepare ourselves for awakening is to cultivate the heart qualities and heart practices of Buddhism, of the Theravadan tradition. And one of the ways we do this is by a practice that I call innate goodness meditation. This is a meditation that I slightly innovated. I took the metta for oneself and removed the support phrases, and we'll work with a memory until the felt sense of innate goodness is present enough, strong enough that we can rest awareness directly in the innate goodness. And this is our innate goodness, but it's the innate goodness of the absolute. So it's within our consciousness always. Anything that's of the absolute isn't created, so we don't need to manifest or somehow fabricate innate goodness. It's always here. And we're really just settling down enough to make contact. A lot of these qualities in meditation are quite subtle. One of the things you'll find as you do deeper meditation is the more subtle, the more refined, the more delicate an experience is meditatively, typically the more potent it is. So as we get up into the really refined qualities of the absolute, they can be extremely impactful and potent in our consciousness. So with goodness, most of us experience goodness in our lives relative exclusively to our behavior and our actions. So we do something and our partner, family, employer likes what we did, and so we'll hear, "Great job, you did a good job." And so we take that in with some appreciation, knowing that we've done something the other is pleased about. But the unfortunate aspect in that exchange is we know on some level they're only valuing our doing. They're not valuing our beingness, who we are. They're not really valuing and acknowledging who I feel I am at my core. Rather, it's my performance. And this starts a driver in us that is a compulsive doing. We'll recognize this in our lives when we have some downtime. You have time to relax, maybe do nothing or do something that's pleasurable to you. And in the back of your mind will be this nagging kind of voice, you really should be doing something. We can't sit here. And then the self-judgment starts, the inner critic or superego. You're lazy, get off the couch, go do this. And so this creates that compulsive driver in us. And that driver is one of the resistances to innate goodness, compulsive doing is. The other resistances are self-talk. Most modern humans have a habit of narrating their life as they move through it, and particularly the judgments. I like this, I don't like that. And you'll notice that this is a constant assertion of likes and dislikes. And part of the function of this is to reinforce who we are. Who I take myself to be is, in part, a combination of all my likes and dislikes. That's part of what creates a self-image. And then the other is self-judgment. Self-judgment is a resistance to innate goodness. And this is the functioning of what's called the inner critic or superego. And it's believed that the superego is something that we establish when we're in the ages 2 to 5. And in effect, it's an internalized caregiver, typically. And initially, it has some really great advice for us. Don't play in the street, don't run with scissors, all these important rules that children need to learn. But of course, we're not children anymore. So we don't need that level of supervision or criticism. But we keep this psychological structure running because there's a comfort in it of having this internalized caregiver. So we feel close to the caregiver is part of the reason the structure stays in place. And in my teaching, I do teach about working with the superego using either assertiveness, stop, not now, go away, or sometimes if the superego is particularly intense, we may need to use some type of metta or some type of love to have the superego calm down. So it just depends on the intensity of it.